We are in full rebuild mode as the New York Jets will search for both a head coach and general manager this offseason, and former GM Mike Tannenbaum will help them do so. Another thing that's uncertain is Aaron Rodgers' future with the team. What will happen there? We'll talk about that and much more, all here on a Wednesday edition of NY Flight Jets Talk.
Jets, Jets, let's go.
Jets wide receiver Wesley Walker. Wesley, how you doing today? ESPN writer Mr. Rich Samini, Jets reporter for The Athletic, Mr. Zach Rosenblatt, Hall of Famer and Jets legend Mr. Marty Lyons.
Your host, Connor Law.
Welcome in, everyone. We are here for a Wednesday edition of NY Flight Jets Talk, and a lot of moving pieces within the Jets organization. It was just a few days ago the team announced they are bringing on the 33rd team, Rick Spielman and Mike Tannenbaum to spearhead the head coach and GM search. So really interesting. Does that help Rex Ryan's odds as head coach? Does it hurt him, or does it really not affect it? We'll get into that and much more with our guest, the great Jake Asman. Before we bring Jake on the show, we've got a new member of the channel, and it's Mother Effing Chew. Really appreciate the membership, and I appreciate you tuning in here. Appreciate all your support with the memberships. I think now that's our 85th member of the show, the memberships that we launched just a little over a month ago, so we appreciate all your support. But let's bring in our guest for today, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. 40K, Jake Asman. Join the show. Jake, what's poppin'?
Connor, I appreciate you having me on your show. I'm still laughing at you having to yell out, Mother effing Chew became a member. God, I love it. Thanks for having me.
Of course, Jake, thanks so much for, sparing some time. We do know how busy you are. Let's get right into it, though. Rodgers, his future with this team is really uncertain. He addressed it on the Pat McAfee show yesterday. He said he's not sure if he wants to play next season, but if he does, he wants it to be for the Jets. Now you're going to look at this from just the Jets' perspective as an organization. What do you think is the Jets' best move to do with Rodgers? Is it cutting him before June 1st, cutting him after? Is it trading him? What do you think happens there, and what do you think is the Jets' best bet?
Well, I think the only scenario involving a cut would be to designate him post June 1.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to actually wait till June 1. You could designate him for that date, because it wouldn't make any sense to do it before then, because it hurts your cap even more. If you made the decision you're done with Rodgers, you're going to do it as a June 1st cut. I mean, look, right now, if they were making the decision, I don't think he's here next year, because I don't think he's played well enough to justify impacting the salary cap beyond 2026 and then 2027, which is what it would be based on like the complications of how the dead cap would play out. He hasn't played well enough. However, there's still 6 games left though. So if he plays well here down the stretch, my opinion might change. Like up until about 2 games ago, I was pro bring Rodgers back with a real coach, but he hasn't looked good these last 2 weeks. And I know they scored a lot of points against the Colts, but my eyes told me he didn't play well in that game. Like they didn't move the ball to the last minute of the first half pretty much. And it was a lot of like Breece Hall and Devontae making great plays, not Rodgers lighting it up, that led them to some scores. That said, Connor, I hope he plays great these final 6, and, they could bring him back with a real coach. But it feels like that is unlikely as things stand right now.
You mentioned it being kind of unlikely for him to come back next season. What do you think that leads us to? Do you think the Jets try to find someone in this year's draft, whether it's Cam Ward, Shedeur Sanders, Jalen Milroe, Quinn Ewers, one of these guys? Do they do that? Do they wait till 2026? What are your top names really for the Jets to watch in this draft class and free agency for the quarterback position?
You named the top names already. The question is, are they, 1, in position to get one of those players, and 2, how does a new GM feel about those players? Or do they look at it like, all right, we have Tyrod under contract, we have Jordan Travis, who the old regime drafted. Could we draft someone in the 2nd round and kind of have a 3-way competition at quarterback? Could we just straight up trade back into the 1st round and get someone like what the Ravens did years ago for Lamar Jackson? Or do they maybe move up if they're not in position to get Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, if those are the top 2 guys? I think it's so tough to know, because once again, 6 games left. Rodgers might be here. He might not be. GM might come in, say, hey, I want to go into next year with someone in the 1st round that we identify. Or that person might say, let's just wait till 2026 altogether. I don't know. And it's impossible to really know, because we don't know who the GM is. coaches,
Yep.
Rodgers' future, or where the Jets are picking right now.
Mhm.
So I don't know if anyone truly knows.
Now, Jake, on your show earlier today with Nick Farrier, you played the clip of Rick Spielman on a CBS podcast talking about what his role looks like in the Jets GM search. He said Mike Tannenbaum really is going to take the vast majority of that, and Spielman's kind of just going to be there to help him. That said, Tannenbaum and Rex Ryan worked together in the Jets organization for a little while. All that I can remember, I don't think there was a massive falling out, if you will, between the two. Now that Tannenbaum's coming in to spearhead the GM and head coach search, do you think this helps, hurts, or doesn't really affect Rex Ryan's odds of being the Jets' 2025 head coach?
It's a great question. I don't know how their relationship is because if you remember, Connor, and maybe you weren't born yet because that's
Probably
how long that's how long it's been and how old that makes me feel, and also how pathetic this franchise has been. That that's the last time this team was good.
Mm-hmm.
Rex Tannenbaum was fired, and Rex kept his job for 2 more years. They basically
Mm-hmm.
pinned the disaster of 2012 on. Well,
Tenure.
Tannenbaum did a bad job putting the team together. Rex has already proven he can coach. Keep Rex, get a different GM. I don't know how Mike T feels about that 15 years later. He might not care. He might look at it like, look, I hired Rex. Rex had a ton of success. I think he fits what this team needs. I'm going to recommend Rex to Woody Johnson. Or he might harness some resentment and be like, yeah, I'm not giving you another shot, Rex. I'm not recommending you. And then, just because Tannenbaum makes that recommendation doesn't mean that, the Johnson family has to listen. They're just advising. So it's complicated. You'd have to tell me how the relationship is between Rex and Tannenbaum. Now, they do work together at ESPN. Obviously, time heals any maybe resentment one had for the other. I mean, the Jets have been a joke since those two guys were there together. Maybe they look at it like, hey, Tannenbaum could bring Rex back and kind of play a hand in fixing the franchise. So I don't know. It's a great question. I'm trying to do some digging on it, but I don't know how their relationship is since that all went down before you were even born. Crazy.
Yeah, it's a really interesting one. I like Rex for certain reasons as head coach. Next
You would
season,
love Rex, Connor. If you were see when I was your age, now I was a little older than you when Rex was the coach, but those were the best days, man. Like you would have loved
I was in the
Rex.
prime of his coaching career.
Oh yeah, you would have loved Rex.
Yeah, I'm sure I would have loved watching him back in that time. I have my concerns with him, though. First, he's been out of the league for nearly a decade, and when he had his last stint as a head coach with the Bills, he struggled. And then there's the talks of, well, when Rex had a success with the Jets, that was a roster pretty much built by Eric Mangini, who, again, was Diana Rossini, brought him up as a possible head coach candidate. I think that's dead. I think that was just something that crossed her mind. Mangini addressed it with one of our favorites, Jake Colin Coward, on his show, and Mangini said he didn't make much of it, and he's not very interested in taking that job. But now, staying with the topic of Tannenbaum leading this head coach and GM search, we saw the guys when going back to Spielman, when he helped lead the Commanders search, we saw the GMs he interviewed. Now, realistically speaking, we can say we want the John Dorseys, the Ray Agnews, the Todd Munkins, the Mike Vrabels of the world. Who do you see as the Jets head coach and GM week 1 next season?
Ooh. I hope it's Mike Vrabel. I mean,
yeah.
I hope. I think if I had to guess who I think it's going to end up being, I'll guess it's Brian Flores. I think the Jets are going to value experience this time around. I think Flores gets the job. Brooklyn guy. He's done a great job in Minnesota. He hates the Dolphins. He hates the Giants. He got railroaded by Miami at the end there. I think if he could bring a legit OC with him, which I'm sure he's thought about, knowing that was his issue in Miami, 3 offensive coordinators in 3 years, I could see him getting this job. I think they hire someone with experience. I think there's a couple names to watch here. Vrabel, Flores, Rex Ryan, and if he's interested in the job, Pete Carroll. I think those are the 4 names to watch here. If you talk about guys with experience, I think Cliff Kingsbury gets an interview.
I was just about to say him.
Matt Nagy might get an interview. I don't know if he'll get the job, but I really do think they want an experienced coach. So I think those are the names you look at.
Yeah, Mike Vrabel's an interesting one. Chris Sims appeared on the Dan Patrick show yesterday and called Vrabel, quote, Parcells Jr. So Vrabel is someone I think there's going to be a lot of teams knocking on his door. When all's said and done, I think Rex Ryan is the coach of this team just because he has a great relationship with Woody Johnson.
Wow, you think Rex gets the job again?
I think Rex gets the job. He wouldn't be my number 1 option. I like an Aaron Glenn, a Brian Flores. I even like Cliff Kingsbury. I know Nick Farrier wasn't too supportive of the Kingsbury idea earlier today on your show, said that the Cardinals team he took to the playoffs on an 11-6 season got railroaded out of the first round. And now you see the Commanders' offense is starting to struggle, which is a similar theme that we saw from his time in Arizona. So, I think there's pros and cons to a lot of these guys. I think the best head coach available this cycle is Mike Vrabel, but just given all the circumstances where the Jets stand right now, I think Rex Ryan is the head coach next season. He wants the job, and I don't think there are going to be many people really that want the job. And now let's focus on the present. I mean, the Jets still have 6 games left in the season, and we're already talking about the GM, the head coach search. Jake, with these 6 games left, what do you think fans have to watch? What should they root for?
It's a great question. I mean, I'm still rooting for wins. I want to see this young, this team string together some wins. I mean, at least until I see what Aaron looks like this week, Connor. Like, I want to see him go out there and light it up, like play like New England week 3 and give us some hope. Like, I'm in on that. I don't know if that's possible, but they still have some good players on this team. I'd like to see them finish the year strong. Garrett Wilson's 300 yards away from another 1,000-yard season. I'd like to see him get that. Breece Hall, I know he's dealing with an injury now, but he's had a really good season after a slow start. I'd like to see him continue to build on it. I want to see some of these young guys get opportunities. Olu Fashanu is the left tackle now. How does he play down the stretch? Tippmann, can he finish strong? AVT, can he string together 6 good games down the stretch and prove he could stay healthy for basically most of the season? Like, there's still a lot on the line here. Can Sauce bounce back down the stretch after the bye and give you some confidence going into next year? See, unlike other years where the Jets are just this bad, this is a 3-8 team with way more talent than 3-8. And I think that's what's so frustrating. Like, the Jets are closer to 8-3 from a talent standpoint than 3-8. And that's what makes this year a nightmare. I'm hoping they could string together some wins. If they could stick it to Miami, stick it to Buffalo, I'd love that. I screw the draft pick. It doesn't matter where you pick. You don't know who any of these guys are going to be. You don't even know who the GM is. And if you're a good general manager, you'll find talent no matter where you're picking. And since there's no obvious top quarterback you're tanking for, and you're not even in range to get one of those guys because of how many bad teams that are still in front of the Jets at this point, I'm rooting for wins and the young guys to play well. And I hope Aaron plays well too. I don't want him to go out looking like a bum. I think that sucks.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, we'll get some of your comments up here on the screen. Smash the like button. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. We are joined by the great Jake Asman. I see we have about 3 callers backstage. We'll get to you guys in a little, but Mother effing
3 callers. Oh my goodness.
Mother effing Chew coming back again with a gifted membership here, and that membership went to Cantu Rinji. Cantu Rinji, welcome to the Connor Long membership club channel, whatever you guys want to call it. Appreciate all the support, Mother effing Chew. And there's a question here. I have a question. Just watched Jake's football show, and you guys said that Daniel Jones will never be a top 15 to 20 quarterback. Curious to know why and what Connor thinks about that. Jake, you can go first here on this one, kind of add on to what you explained.
Yeah, I don't know if I said that might have been Cole who said top 15 to 20. I could see Daniel Jones being the 20th best quarterback. My wording on Jones, Mother effing Chew, which I love saying, is I don't think Daniel Jones is ever going to be a franchise quarterback. I think he could be a serviceable starter. I think he might be able to have a rebound type year like what Sam Darnold's done with the right situation. But I would never bank on Daniel Jones being a legit franchise guy, being deserving of a top 6 pick. I think in the right situation, as we saw a couple of years ago when things broke right for the Giants, he could be a quarterback that could steer you to 9 or 10 wins and maybe, if everything goes right, win a playoff game. Like that, to me, I think is his ceiling. I think for him to be like a guy that leads you to a Super Bowl or even takes you to an NFC or AFC title game, I don't see that.
Yeah, this is a really interesting question here, Mother effing Chew. Appreciate all the support. I mean, my thoughts on Daniel Jones is I think we saw his ceiling, and that was 2 years ago when he made it into the playoffs. That was the best football we've seen from him throughout his whole career, and I think that was a terrible decision by management and Joe Shane to give him that huge contract after one season. I said it the day they inked him to that lucrative extension. This is not the right decision. That was, I think, a bit of a fluke year where you see someone like Saquon Barkley who absolutely went off. You decide to put him on a franchise tag, and he ends up walking, and look what he's doing now with the Eagles. So I think we saw Daniel Jones' ceiling, and that season, Jake, what would you say? He was, a top 12, top 15 quarterback?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I mean, he played better than the stats show. He threw 15 touchdowns. He had 7 rushing touchdowns, though. And to Daniel Jones' credit, he was excellent in the playoff win over the Vikings. But I don't know. He probably was a top 15 quarterback that year, but that was the only year he's been ever close to that. So I don't know who the real DJ is at this point.
That's what I said. I think he hit his ceiling that
Yeah.
season. I think that's the best we're going to see out of him. I do think he could be maybe a bridge guy for a team at some point where he kind of, is like a Tyrod Taylor, something like that. I just don't think, like you said, he's a franchise quarterback. He's getting older. He's had several chances now with the Giants, and he's blown basically every opportunity he's gotten. So I think he's a good guy. I just think, he simply doesn't have enough talent. I mean, we've never really seen stout quarterbacks come out of Duke, and he was someone who came from a smaller school, didn't face great competition. I think he was selected very high up for what he offered. So like I said, I don't think he's going to be a franchise guy, and his ceiling is that 2022 season we saw to him where the Giants made it to the playoffs. But Jake, really appreciate you, my man. I see you coming in with a gifted membership. Appreciate all the
baby.
support. And appreciate you tuning in here. That membership went to BP York. Jake, like I said, really appreciate it. We got a few calls up and a few more questions left. Let's try to rapid fire through. First up on the phone lines, we got Coach Brick joining the show. Coach, how you doing?
Hey, what's up, Coach?
What's up, fellas? Easier for me to call in when I'm working from home. I don't know how everybody else does it during the day. All right, so here's my thought.
Yep.
Yes, I want wins over anything else. Don't care about the draft pick right now. Crapshoot, right? Most people will agree. However, I look towards the future and I look at our roster and I am looking at starter quality players, and I see on offense maybe 9, maybe. It's not devoid, right? Mm-hmm. We need a right tackle, maybe another wide receiver, an upgraded tight end. Okay, right. There's 8, maybe. All right, I'm looking at defense. I see 7. I say we got more holes on defense. We got 9 picks. The talk of Rex be 9 defensive players. That's my gut.
Won't be. They need a receiver on offense badly.
I also think Rex needs a strong offensive coordinator if he wants to come back and coach this team 1,000%, because he's already, strongly a defensive guy. And like I said, it's been nearly a decade. Last time we saw him coach was the 2016 season, I believe. So he comes back next year. He hadn't coached since 9 years ago. So you look at that and you already say, okay, he doesn't. He struggled to run an offense back then. He had to have a strong offensive mind. Now you're going to trust him to come in and put together a modern day offense. That was my whole gripe with Gruden. Like I really like Gruden as a candidate, but he won Super Bowl. He won the Super Bowl in 2003, and he said in an interview did not run one snap out of the shotgun formation. So both those guys they haven't coached in a while, and they don't know how to run a modern day offense. Jake, what are your thoughts there?
Look, his OC hire will be the biggest hire he makes, because that was the issue. Once Schottenheimer was gone and they tried to build around Sanchez, Tony Soprano was brought in, or Tony Sperano. I always call him Tony Soprano. Tony, R.I.P. to both of them, though, on a serious note, Gandolfini and Tony Soprano. Tony Soprano. Soprano. No, I don't know. Whichever one. Sperano. Thank you. Yeah, the football coach. What gives me some hope with Rex maybe hiring a good offensive staff is his son is a wide receivers coach on the Lions. There's got to be some names he can get from that staff. Maybe he brings Mark Brunell over. Maybe he knows a lot of other coaches around the league. Like, he's still locked into football. He's still watching the games. He still has an understanding of where the modern offense is going. But I would need to know who his staff is before I'd feel comfortable with it. I love Rex. I think he's a rah-rah guy. He'll change the culture. He loves being a Jet. How does any Jet fan not love Rex for what he did in those years? But there's some questions there. He's not my number one choice. He's probably not my top 3, but I'd rather Rex Ryan, Connor, than someone who's never been a head coach before with a defensive background. I love Aaron Glenn. In a different universe, he'd make sense for the Jets. Give me Rex over Aaron Glenn, though, if we're making that pick.
Wow.
Only if we know who the offensive coordinator is. There is no Rex Ryan for me if we don't know we've got an experienced, modern, today, proven it recently. I don't care if it's in college or not. I want to see a proven offensive coordinator. I don't think we can pair him up with the same Schottenheimer, just run it, or whoever is just going to run the ball because that's what he wants, to run the ball and punt it and play great defense. I don't think we're there. I also think on the discussion you all had on drafting a quarterback, regardless of where we are in the draft order and the top one falls to us, doesn't matter. There are still holes in this roster. And yes, you can have a quick turnaround if you draft the right one or develop the right one. Certainly as a fan base, I'm a fan watching this team, hasn't really done that. So I'd rather them bolster O-line, the D-line, another D tackle, get that other cornerback to go across from Sauce. I'd rather see them invest in those pieces and allow us to upgrade to I don't know, call it a 6-11 season from this year. I'd rather know that that's what we're building, and it's going to be a rough year, and the tickets will be cheaper when I travel. So that's okay.
There you go.
Coach, appreciate the call. Any final thoughts?
Thanks, fellas. Connor, keep it up, dude. You're doing a great
Appreciate
job.
you, man.
Yep.
Thank you for tuning in, and I appreciate all the support here on the show. Jake, I know we only have about a few more minutes with you, so we do have one more call. I just wanted to float a thought by you. You mentioned bringing in a proven offensive coordinator there. So Michael Nani of Jets X Factor, he had a column that came out about little less than an hour ago, and he said 4 outside-of-the-box head coach candidates for the New York Jets, and the first one he listed in the article was Josh McCown for head coach. And McCown right now is a quarterback coach for the Vikings, I believe it is. He's quarterback coach for the Vikings, and he listed him as head coach. Could you see, they bring the band back together kind of. Obviously, McCown was never on the Jets coaching staff. He played quarterback for the Jets. Could you see Rex comes in as head coach? Could you see McCown possibly as an OC with the Jets?
Yeah, I mean, I could see it. I don't know if McCown and Rex have a relationship. I'd have to look. I don't think they ever overlapped.
I don't think he had. Let me check.
I don't think so. I mean, I could see it. McCown's going to be a head coach at some point in this league. He actually interviewed for the Texans job right after he retired, which was nuts. But
yeah, that's insane.
But he's paid his dues. He's been a quarterback coach a couple of years now. He'll probably be an OC next. That's the next step for him. You go from quarterback coach to probably offensive coordinator or passing game coordinator before that, maybe. I could see it. Look, if you tell me Rex wanted to hire McCown as his OC, that's a name I'm at least interested in. I'm intrigued by.
Yeah, he's an interesting one.
I want sure. Brian Dable if he's fired, though. I think Rex and Dable would be awesome.
Rex and Dable would be great, especially Big Rex. Rex and Dable. Rex is the defensive mind. Obviously, he's going to hold guys accountable. And then you look at someone like Dable, who just he hasn't really put anything together other than that playoff season with the Giants. And I'd honestly take Vrabel as a head coach, really. And I'd love him as an offensive coordinator, but I'd take him as a head coach as well. But let's rapid fire through this last call here. We got our guy Gary joining the show, who I was just talking to about the.
Look at this dream team. This is like Montana passing it over to Steve Young. Look at these two. Look at this. Got 2 generations here. This is fantastic. Connor made a point that I hated on Bobby's show, and then I've been thinking about it, and I hated it a lot less, and I'm almost on board with it. Captain Handsome Pants, Cliff Kingsbury. I hated this idea because he's an OC. The ladies will love him. He's an offensive coordinator, but he is a quarterback guru. And the Jets are going to need a new quarterback. I would say hopefully next year. I don't know if you guys know the history, but he was the OC behind Case Keenum. Then he was the OC behind Johnny Manziel. Then he was the head coach of Texas Tech, where he turned Baker Mayfield from a walk-on to a guy that eventually won the Heisman at Oklahoma.
He played quarterback for the Jets backup for a season.
Made Davis Webb. He did play backup. Then Pat Mahomes. So it wasn't Mahomes. I mean, there's a history here. Case Keenum, Johnny Manziel, Baker Mayfield, Davis Webb, Pat Mahomes, and now Jaden Daniels. Like, the history is what it is, and it's undeniable. And I still don't think he's a head coach. I think he's an OC. But this is a business. Do you hire him so we can develop the quarterback so we don't miss on quarterback again, and then once we're ready to win, fire him and bring in a real head coach? I mean, it's not the nicest thing to do, but it's like the Buck Showalter treatment. Like, okay, we're ready to win now. Now we're going to bring in someone else.
Yeah, well, I feel like it would naturally kind of happen, right? Because the quarterback would go as far as he can go, and then the rest of the team wouldn't be able to get over the hump because the coaching is not good enough. I mean, there are worse ideas. Plus, maybe he's a better head coach second time around, right? He learned from what happened in Arizona. He's not my number one, but he's an offensive guy with a track record of developing quarterbacks. I'll take him over a first-time defensive-minded coach who's never done it.
It just makes sense to me because, you're going to want an offensive guy. Coming off of this disaster the last few years, you're going to want an offensive guy. The fan base already wants an offensive guy. You can see that.
Hire an experienced DC to fix the defense, so you got a chance.
And you can't miss on quarterback yet. If you miss on, if you take a quarterback top 10 again or whatever, and you miss again, boy, it's going to be bad. This kind of solves both that. Like, I'm not going to say that the quarterback is going to be the next, Pat Mahomes, but if you get Cliff you put that quarterback in the best possible situation. Like if you draft Cam Ward or Shador, you put him in the best possible situation to succeed. And the Jets cannot miss again at quarterback. To me, I
they
hate
can. It will,
and they probably will.
They probably will. But I do agree with your sentiment. It would behoove them to actually get it right for once.
Now, Gary, you're saying that I somehow convinced you to get on my Cliff Kingsbury train?
A little bit. I when you no, he's an OC. He's not a head coach. And then you kind of sold me on it. I've just been like, well, we're 3-8. You got to waste your time on something, right?
Yeah.
So I've been playing the OC head coach quarterback game, and I would still probably rather Flores or Vrabel if it was me. But what's gonna get the fan base to not? I think he works with the fan base. Like he's a quarterback guru. You can say what you want about him, but I just ran his history down. He's a quarterback guru. He's gonna make a good quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely, Gary. Appreciate the call. And oh god, I'm not gonna have fun watching the Nets tonight with all the questionable injuries and Cam Thomas now out 4 to 6 weeks.
The next 4 weeks.
I'm not going to be able to watch basketball for a month. Cam Thomas is the one player who I enjoy watching. And maybe Cam Johnson continues to average 20 a night. But anyways, Gary, appreciate the call.
Appreciate you, Connor.
All 2 members of the net fan base are on the screen right now.
Oh no, we just need to get Evan Roberts on. Just need to get Evan Roberts on.
It's true.
Gary, appreciate you.
Thank you.
Have a great rest of your day. Jake, appreciate you sticking with us. Everyone, smash the like button. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. That'll do it for us, Jake. Like I said, really appreciate you making some time. You have any final thoughts?
My final thoughts are this. Connor, keep up the great work.
Appreciate you.
I love that on a day you don't have school, you're like, let me crank out some content, baby. I wish this was around when I was in high school. Are you still in middle school?
Yeah, I'm in 8th grade.
Yeah, amazing. I wish this was around. I wish this was around when I was in middle school. I was lucky enough to go to a high school that had a radio station. So starting as a 9th grader was my first opportunity to actually get on the air. You've been doing this for a while already. You're not even in high school yet.
Not even a year though. My first episode was a year from. Well, no. My first episode was a month and a year. Wait, no. It was 11 months from yesterday. It was my first ever episode on this show. The day after Christmas Day, 2 days after the Commanders' joke of a win. So yeah, I haven't even done it for a year, which is crazy to think already.
Keep crushing it, baby. More shows, the better. More reps. I love it.
There we go. Appreciate you all sticking with us. Smash the like button. Make sure you are subscribed to the channel. That'll do it for us. For Jake Asman, I'm Connor Long signing off. JTS Jets, Jets, Jets.